Okay, these are the 4C notes, equation of a line through 2 points. We're going to write an equation of a line that passes through 2 given points. Like I stated in class before, we're building. 4-1, we took it off of the graph and had information about slope and y-intercept, and we used those to plug it into the formula. 4-2C, they did not give us the y-intercept, and we had to find it using y equals mx plus b. And then on parallel and perpendicular, they didn't give us the slope or the y-intercept. So now we're building again where we're just getting 2 points. And we are still going to be using y equals mx plus b to help us write the equation of the line. Now they don't give us slope and they don't give us y-intercept. So we do have to find these two components before we can write our equation. So first step, if we're given 2 points, is to go ahead and label it x1, y1, x2, y2. And we're going to use our slope formula that we learned in the last unit, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, to find the slope. Since I've labeled my points, my slope is going to equal -1 minus 5 over 2 minus -2. And I want to go ahead and simplify. -1 minus 5 is -6. And I've got that double negative there, so double negative changes to positive. And I get 2 plus 2, which equals 4. And then I want to simplify that further. Both of these are divisible by 2, so I can divide and get -3 over 2. So my slope is -3 over 2. Next, we're going to use the slope and pick a point. And again, you get to pick the point to find the y-intercept. So you can pick x1, y1, or you can pick x2, y2. Those are both points on the line. This is similar to what we did on 4C.2. And I'm going to pick -2, 5. And that's my x-coordinate, that's my y-coordinate, and my m is -3 over 2 because we found it. We have lots of practice doing this part, so we're going to do the y equals mx plus b. My y, I've labeled 5. My m is -3 over 2 times -2 plus b. Okay, we do have to multiply those out, and if you'll remember, I've asked you to use your calculator. And I'm going to type in -3 divided by, let me get it out of the graphing mode, -3 divided by 2 times, and I'm multiplying by -2, and I get 3. So now I've got 5 equals 3 plus b, and then from here we're going to solve for b. I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides, and I get 2 is equal to the b. Okay, so my y-intercept is at 2. Now we're ready to write the equation. So I'm going to use the slope that I found in the first part and use the y-intercept I found in the second part to write my equation. So y equals -3 over 2x plus 2. This is my equation, and I'm done. Okay? Number 1, or example 1. We're going to go ahead and separate it so that you find the slope, the y-intercept, and then you can write your equation. So again, I'm going to label my points, x1, y1, x2, y2, and I'm going to use the slope formula up here. That's going to give me 7 minus 4 over 2 minus 1. That reduces to 3 over 1, which simplifies just down to 3. Okay, now I'm going to use that 3 with one of these points, and I think I'm just going to use 1, 4. So y is 4 equals m is 3 times 1 is x plus b, and again I'm plugging in this point for the x and y values, and I'm plugging in 3 for the m value, and I'm going to solve for b. 3 times 1 is 3, so I get 4 equals 3 plus b, and then I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides, and I get 1 is equal to b. Okay, now I have my slope, now I have my y-intercept, and I can do number 3 and write the equation. Y equals 3x plus 1. That's my equation, and I'm done. Example number 2, 3, 2. I'm going to label my points x1, y1, x2, y2, and I'm going to find my slope. So I'm going to do y2, which is negative 9, minus 2 over 0 minus 3. That gives me negative 11 over negative 3, and that does simplify to just positive 11 over 3. So here's my slope, and I'm gonna pick 0, negative 9. I like that 0 in there, so I'm going to use my second point this time. So y is negative 9 equals the 11 over 3 times 0 plus b. Okay, well that works out better because 11 thirds times 0 is just 0, so that goes away. So that means my negative 9 is my y-intercept. And if you'll remember from our math reviews and when we did x and y-intercepts, it's because that 0 is for the x value, that does represent our y-intercept. Now I can write my equation because I have my slope and I have my y-intercept. So my equation is going to be y equals 11 over 3x minus 9. And here is my equation. Number 3, again I'm going to label my points x1, y1, x2, y2, and I'm going to calculate my slope. So I'm going to have 0 minus negative 5 over negative 5 minus 10. I'm going to simplify that. I do have a double negative, so this double negative does become a positive. And 0 plus 5 is 5. Negative 5 and negative 10 become negative 15. That does simplify and it becomes negative 1/3. So my slope is negative 1/3. My y-intercept, I'm going to use y equals mx plus b, and I'm going to use this point with a 0 again. So my y is 0 equals m is negative 1/3 times negative 5 plus b. I'm going to multiply those together. I get 0 equals positive 5/3 plus b. And then I need to subtract 5/3 from both sides. And I get negative 5/3 is equal to my b. So now I have my slope, now I have my y-intercept, and I'm going to write my equation. Y equals negative 1/3 x minus 5/3. I'm going to double check my math because it's very unusual to have a fraction for a y-intercept, although it does happen. Okay, we're good. Number 4, again, label your points. I'm going to label it x1, y1, x2, y2. I'm going to calculate my slope. y2 minus y1 is going to be 1 minus 8 over negative 2 minus negative 2. I'm going to simplify. 1 minus 8 is negative 7. And I have that double negative, so that's going to change both of those to positive. And I get negative 2 plus 2 is 0. Alright, so let me get the calculator out because I want to show you what happens when we plug in negative 7 divided by 0. Because this comes back an error. You can't divide by 0. So if I can't divide by 0, that type of slope that we had was undefined. Okay, and if you'll remember from Slope Dude, the undefined slope was when he fell off the cliff and it became a vertical line. Okay, and we worked on equations of vertical lines. That means it starts with x equals. And what does our x equal? Well, it equals the same number, negative 2, in both points. So this is going to be our equation, x equals negative 2. Alright, now we have a table. Before we had 2 points, now we have a whole slew of points to choose from. So first off, just like we calculated slope in tables before, you get to pick any 2 points you want. So once you pick those 2 points, and I think I'm going to do 4, 4 for x1, y1, and I'm going to do 8, 3 for x2, y2. And we calculate the slope like we did before. The only difference is you get to pick from more points. So y2, I get 3 minus 4 over 8 minus 4. That leaves me with negative 1 over positive 4, and that is already reduced. So my slope is 1/4. Y-intercept, again, you get to pick the point. I think I'm going to pick 4, 4 for this one. So we're going to do the y equals mx plus b. And I'm going to have y is 4 equals m is negative 1/4 times 4 plus b. And then I'm going to calculate what negative 1/4 times 4 is. So negative, oops, I'm going to quit on that one. Negative 1/4, try that again, negative 1/4 times 4 gives me negative 1. So I get 4 equals negative 1 plus b. Then I'm going to add 1 to both sides, and I get 5 equals to b. Alright, so now I have my slope. Now I have my y-intercept. I can write my equation. Y equals negative 1/4 x plus 5. Okay, number 5. I have x and f of x. This is to give you more practice with the function notation. Remember, the f of x is the same as y. I'm going to pick x1, y1 to be my x-intercept here. I know it's my x-intercept because I have a 0 for a y. And I'm going to pick the point above it to be my x2 and y2. So calculating my slope, m equals, I'm going to take 2 minus 0 over 6 minus 9. I get 2 over negative 3. So my slope is negative 2/3. And I'm going to pick this 9, 0. So y is 0 equals negative 2/3 times 9 plus b. Bring up my calculator again and do negative 2/3 times 9, and I get negative 6. So 0 equals negative 6 plus b. And then that means I'm going to add 6 to both sides, and my b is equal to 6. So now I have my slope. Now I have my y-intercept, so my equation is y equals negative 2/3 x plus 6. Alright, so now it says use the equation to find f of negative 15. So we're making a prediction about this equation. Well, if you'll remember, f of negative 15 in function notation, that negative 15 represents our x. So we can use our equation, and we're going to plug in negative 15 for our x value plus 6, and we're going to evaluate what the y value is. Again, you can use your calculator. We can type in negative 2/3 times 15 plus 6, and that evaluates at negative 4. So y, or actually I should write f of x, is negative 4. F of x is negative 4. Okay, number 6. I'm going to pick 0, 6. We should recognize that when that 0 is in the x spot, that this is our y-intercept, and I might use that to my advantage when I write the equation. And then I'm just going to pick 4, 9, x2, y2 for my second point. And I'm going to calculate my slope. That's going to be 9 minus 6 over 4 minus 0. That gives me 3 over 4, so my slope is 3/4. Now, since my y-intercept is already in my table and I recognized it as the y-intercept, then I don't really need to do y equals mx plus b, because I already know what b is. B is 6. So my equation becomes y equals 3/4 x plus 6. If you need validation, I'm going to use 0, 6. So I'm going to do 6 equals 3/4. My x would be 0 plus b. And 3/4 times 0 is 0, and that goes away, leaving me 6 is equal to my b. What will the height be 24 years after it's planted? Okay, well, height represents my y value, so I'm trying to find y. And I'm going to have 3/4 times 24 plus 6. Again, I can use my calculator. 3/4 times 24 plus 6. And I can predict my plant is going to be 24 units. Doesn't say if it's feet or not. It's going to be 24 units high. Example 7, we have number of pizzas and total cost. And it says what is the meaning and slope and what is the possible meaning of the y-intercept. Okay, well, so the meaning of the slope, we'll go ahead and calculate it. I'll use 1 for x1 and 1350 for y1, and then x2, y2. So I'm going to find some room, and I'm going to calculate 3350 minus 1350 over 3 minus 1. And I'm just going to go ahead and use my calculator. 3350 minus 1350 is 20. So I get 20 over 2, which gives me 10. So that means it costs $10 per pizza. $10 per pizza, and that goes back to our y per x that we did in Unit 4A. What is the meaning of slope? That means it costs $10 per pizza. It's going up by $10. So what is the possible meaning of the y-intercept? Okay, well, the y-intercept starts at 0, and we don't have 0. But we can kind of backtrack it a little bit, and we can go back to 0. So if it's going off $10 each pizza, if I'm going back 1, that means I need to take $10 off. So that means that my next point is going to be $3.50. So we're starting at $3.50. So that means the price of pizzas start at $3.50 because that's our beginning point. Price starts at $3.50. And that's going back because we had one pizza, or the slope between the pizzas was $10 per pizza. And we went back $10, and we see we're starting out at $3.50. Okay, number 8. I'm going to just label x1, y1, x2, y2. So that's going to make me have $17.50 minus $7 over 5 minus 2. Let me use my calculator again. 1750 minus $7. So I get 1050 over 3. And 1050 divided by 3 gives me 350. So what is the meaning of the slope? It means I'm paying $3.50 per gallon of gas. Alright, so what is the meaning of the y-intercept? Well, I don't see the y-intercept up here, but I know I'm going back $3.50 in gas. So if I go back to 1 gallon, I'm paying $3.50. And if I go back to 0, well, I take $3.50 away and I'm starting at 0. So I start off with 0 cost for 0 gas. So I have 0 money for 0 gas. I'm starting off with 0 money. I wanted to show you something else. I'm going to go back up here to my slope and my points, and I want to show you the calculator a little bit. Okay, because we've done this before in class. You can plot these points. This will actually calculate the slope for you. So I wanted to show you how that does that. So I'm going to come in here to Stat, and we're going to go up to Edit. So it's already highlighted, so I'm going to hit Enter, and you'll remember our list, List 1 and List 2. I'm going to put my X coordinates in List 1, so I'm going to have 1 and 2. And then I'm going to come over to List 2, and I'm going to take 4 and 7. Those are my Y coordinates. And so here I have my X and Y coordinates. Now I'm going to come back to Stat, and I'm going to arrow over to Calculate, and I'm going to go down to choice number 4, Linear Regression. Okay, you see how it's in the slope-intercept form? They use A instead of M, so that just stands for the variable AX plus B. So I'm going to put that up there, and it says linear regression AX plus B, but I have to tell it which list to compare. So list 1 is in yellow above 1, and list 2 is in yellow above 2. So we're going to type in second list 1, comma, second list 2, and the comma is above 7. So I'm telling it to compare list 1 to list 2, and then I'm going to hit Enter. And if you'll notice, this tells me the equation of the line. They tell me the variables A is 3, which I got 3, and B is 1, which I got 1. Okay, I can do this with example 2 as well. I'm just going to go back to Stat, go back to Edit, and I'm going to change my values. I've got 3 and 0 for my X values, and I have 2 and -9 for Y values, and make sure you use the negative button and not the minus sign. Then I'm going to go back to Stat. I'm going to arrow over to Calculate. I'm going to go down to 4, Linear Regression, and again I need to tell it list 1 and list 2. So second 1, comma, second 2, and I get 3.666 repeating. I can check and see how close that is to the 11 over 3 that I got, and it's the same number, you can see. And then my y-intercept was -9. So this might be helpful for you to double check your work and make sure you're getting the answers correct, or it might be something that you can use to help you solve the problem.